Shalom, I'm Rabbi Michael Panitz. I'm the Rabbi of Temple Israel of Norfolk, Virginia, and I'm pleased to be speaking to you from the pulpit of our congregation. At this time, I'd like to talk to you about the Centennial of a classic. And the classic I have in mind is a particular silent film. Centennial of a classic. Many of us are familiar with an American television tradition, the screening of Cecil B. DeMille's epic, The 10 Commandments, during the Passover and Easter season. This year, at Temple Israel, at our matzah brai breakfast on the Sunday of Passover, April 9th, 2023, we are going to show DeMille's original silent film presentation of that Bible story. DeMille was a man of contradictions. Although he identified himself outwardly as an Episcopalian, he never forgot his Jewish ancestry on his mother's side. While he proclaimed the importance of church for society, he preferred to meditate alone in empty sanctuaries rather than to attend worship services. He would not use the word Israelite or Jew in his 1949 blockbuster, Samson and Delilah. Yet, in the first years after the Holocaust, he fought studio executives to present the formative biblical stories of the Jewish people. He was theologically conservative, yet nonetheless he shamelessly adapted Bible stories to the racy norms of Hollywood storytelling that he himself helped to fashion, adding love triangles absent in the biblical original, and using that device to propel the story he was telling. He was a man for whom spirituality was somehow integrated with what his critics called suds, sex, and spectacle. DeMille's 1923 version of the 10 Commandments deserves to be better known. It is the inspiration for generations of cinematic biblical retellings. So many details of the later iterations of the Exodus story are first presented here. Just a partial listing. The taskmasters forcing the Israelites to bow and themselves bowing during an inspection visit by Pharaoh to the worksite. The gaudy sexuality of Pharaoh's court with that staple of Bible films, performances by exotic dancers. The scene of Pharaoh placing the dead body of his firstborn son on the altar of his pagan god, demanding resurrection as a proof of the power of his deity. Of course, the spectacular money shot of the dividing of the waters of the sea, and the thunder and lightning of the giving of the 10 Commandments, all of these are present in this first essay at retelling the biblical master story. Yet, there are also interesting aspects of this film unfamiliar to those who grew up on the 1956 Technicolor version. Moses as an old, albeit still vigorous man. The son of Pharaoh as a spoiled brat, badly in need of corrective discipline. Dathan as an emaciated slave rather than the Edward G. Robinson character of a quisling overseer. Touching scenes from the Exodus, the Israelites carrying kids and lambs, foals nursing from jennies and kids from goats, a little child lost in the confusion clutching her Egyptian-style doll. And the unexpected transformation of Miriam from pious prophet to paramour of Dathan the discontented and chief priestess of the cult of the golden calf. Where did that come from? DeMille was aware of his departures from the Bible story. He justified them by appealing to the nature of the genre, in which the filmmaker may not indulge in scholarly caution, but must decide how a scene is to be presented. Indeed, it is risible to hear people today comparing more recent film presentations unfavorably to the Ten Commandments on the grounds that contemporary versions are unfaithful to the biblical original, whereas DeMille's was ostensibly true to the Bible. Despite the wealth of historically researched detail, DeMille was intent on presenting a story geared to American audiences of the 1920s and then the 1950s. In the silent film, the sermonic intent is apparent. The Bible retelling in that film is the prologue to the main part of the film, a story set in the film's present day, that is 1923, of a corrupt building contractor who breaks all of the Ten Commandments and then is broken by his disobedience. Still, the historical research and extensive expansive recreation of the pharaonic ambience had a great effect both on cast members and on audiences. The Jewish extras hired for the film, thousands of them, hired by DeMille to, quote, portray their ancestors, responded to their charge with enthusiasm. Their overacting was perfectly appropriate to the genre of the silent film, where in the absence of dialogue, broad gestures were required to convey the story. The clenched jaw frustration of the slave Dathan, the hand of accusation raised against heaven by Miriam, who had just witnessed the murder of her love interest under the wheels of a wagon carrying a sphinx, the expressions of horror and dismay by the Israelites forced to pull that wagon and commit the murder, the herding cats nature of the disarray of the joyous Israelites heading free from Egypt. In all of these and many other moments, one sees how bringing their sacred history to life inspired both the leading actors and the extras. Audiences, too, rewarded the film with their dollars. True, it was perfectly timed to coincide with the craze for ancient Egypt gripping America in the wave of the 1923 discovery by Howard Carter of the tomb of King Tutankhamun, King Tut. But the film had staying power. The silent version of the Ten Commandments was the highest grossing film of 1923 and held the paramount record for revenues for a quarter century. On Sunday, April 9th, after our morning worship and after you've helped yourself to our brunch, we will watch the film on the large screen television in our own Sandler Hall. Since the film is a silent, I will be able to provide a running commentary without interrupting any dialogue. You will learn the secret of how DeMille pulled off the illusion of splitting the waters of the sea. I will show you just where DeMille is following the Bible, where he is transposing and conflating one story with another, and where he's following his own creative imagination. You can decide for yourself how this stacks up with other examples of midrash, for this surely is a modern midrash. It is too soon to say whether we are inaugurating a new Passover tradition this year at Temple Israel. Only time will tell. But in the centennial year, 2023, of the release of the Ten Commandments, it premiered, of course, in Grauman's Egyptian Theater, the Hollywood movie palace that had opened in 1922. This is an idea whose time has come. Happy Passover! Happy retelling of the story of the birth of our nation.